without further ado, we'll move on to our next session. So we were talking about application earlier from the user perspective and from the government. Now we're going into upskilling. In this session entitled Upskilling plus Digital Transformation to Become Better as a Nation, we hope to shed light on why a nation set to adopt IR4 technologies needs the necessary skills and governance for a better tomorrow. Our esteemed moderator, Jackie Tan, is the Vice President at TUSUD addressing advanced manufacturing. He is also a project fellow at the World Economic Forum for the shaping of the future of advanced manufacturing and production platform. Together with him, we welcome some equally formidable forces in the industry, starting off with Associate Professor IR Dr. Ingenieur Lo Cheng Yi, representing innovationlabs.my. His background includes receiving his PhD from University of Paderborn, Germany, an associate professor at University Tun Hussein on Malaysia, and a professional engineer registered with the Board of Engineers. He co-founded innovationlabs.my with Fraunhofer Institute of Mechatronics Systems Design in Germany. Wir begrüßen Sie sich hier, Professor Dr. Lo. Following in his footsteps is also another Dr. Chua. Dr. Chua Wen-Shan, head of the Smart Factory program at SHRDC, obtained his PhD in Control Systems Engineering and a bachelor's in Engineering in Mechatronics Engineering from Monash University, Malaysia. He is also a mentor for the Productivity 1010 initiative appointed by the Malaysia Productivity Corporation in collaboration with the Machinery and Equipment Productivity Nexus. Dr. Chua focuses on delivering high-impact talent development programs with his team. We then invite Engineer Johnson Tan of Siemens Malaysia to the panel. He is the head of Application and Technology Unit for Digital Industries, where he oversees the driving of new technologies, innovations, and digitalization consulting services. He has over 24 years experience in the field of various engineering fields in various industries. He also looks at technical marketing, business development, team management, as well as profit and loss responsibility. He is a certified chartered engineer and a professional engineer with a practicing certificate in the discipline of instrumentation and controls. Rounding up this very esteemed panel is Dr. Elsa Satkunasigan. Takes up the final spot, and she is the Senior Business Development Advisor of Corporate Governance at the Asia School of Business. She graduated from Monash University with a PhD and holds a Master's and Bachelor's of Law from University Malaya. She has published several book chapters and journal articles in the corporate governance area and currently conducts training programs and research within the same area. Her previous role at Perbadanan Insurance Deposit Malaysia saw her involvement in the corporate governance and compliance research, making her an expert in her own right. I shall now pass the baton, like the Olympics, to Jackie and the panel. Over to you, Jackie.
Thank you, Lind. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, panelists, and of course, good afternoon to all participants. I think for today's discussion, we actually will focus on digital transformation, of course, upskilling. I think at the moment, what we see right now, manufacturing industry is really going through these rapid transformations. Companies are going digital, and workforce, of course, have to be upskilled at the same time. Perhaps my first question will direct towards Siemens, Johnson, effectively. Now, how does Siemens see these transformations so far? And how do you see the workforce being transformed at the same time? What are the key parameters that you see workforce is actually a key success measure for the companies right now?
Okay. Thank you, Jackie. Thanks for your question. Thanks, organizing team, for having us here today. I'm Johnson Tan from Siemens Malaysia. So indeed, with the current transformation that we all see, it's very much impacted or influenced by the global pandemic that we see that actually resulted a major change in the entire landscape and also the way we interact for ourselves daily, such as remote conferencing, be it on voice or on video. And most of us right now are working from home. So a key learning point that we see right now is how can we ensure the continuity and also assisting our customers in their day-to-day operations and also maintenance. We certainly have to leverage on the technology that we have to facilitate remote diagnostics, remote services, to any breakdown issues that our customer may face, and bridging the technical experts that may be sitting miles apart to the production site itself, to assist them how to rectify the problem that they're facing on the current facilities. And this can only resolve by capitalizing on the base technology that we have right now. For example, the use of internet facilities, high bandwidth, and all Google Glasses and all, where we can actually tap on the available resources or the end customer as our first level of support to be our eyes and hands. And we, at the other end, providing the technical expert through virtual reality guidance on the Google Glasses, so that the end customer itself can actually carry out the rectification for us, despite that we are supporting them from miles apart. So I think that this is a very key aspect that we have to leverage on in terms of how business has actually changed and how we actually continue the support without actually affecting any stoppages or disturbance to the processes.
Right. So I do hear that there's simply a need for remote performance, remote operations, and of course, remote upskilling of workforces. Coming from site that operations require 24/7 operation effectively. Perhaps from Dr. Elsa's perspective, there's a need also to have a proper structures and ethical issues when companies go for remote monitoring, and of course, making sure workers are effectively taken care by the companies as well. So what are the key ethics and governance issues that you see when companies embark on digital transformations, and how companies actually impact with their customers' integration as well? Dr. Elsa, please.
Hi, thanks, Jackie. Well, I think let's look at from the point of view of the inventor. That means you are actually the one coming up with this new innovation. Yeah. Because digital transformation has such a large impact at times, it's given birth to this new term called digital ethics, which is when you actually come up with your innovation, you should actually look at it holistically. You should look at the impact on the environment, social, as well as economic. For example, when we look at automated self-driving cars, we're actually looking excitedly at the fact that it will reduce human error, and it's using renewable energy and things like that. But we are ignoring the questions about how much of e-waste is it going to produce. We are also ignoring the questions about what happens to jobs, bus drivers and lorry drivers and all that, what happens to them. And digital transformation can raise other ethical issues as well, like biases. When you're innovating something, be careful about biases. Very simple test. If you go to Google Image right now, and you type in the word schoolboy, you get a whole load of pictures of boys in uniforms and cartoons. Type in schoolgirl, and you'll immediately get highly sexualized images of girls in very sexy uniforms. I tried, biases in different ways. I typed in the word in Google Image of Asian, and I got all these people from the Far East. That's the American version of Asian. What happens to the Middle Easterners, people from the Indian subcontinent, and people from Southeast Asia as well. So these are examples of when you innovate, the ethics that you build into your innovations to make sure there's no biases. When you look at even AI, right, the algorithms sometimes not only with biases, but they can also sort of manipulate people's thinking. You can just look at how it creates an echo chamber. Facebook, when I get a particular, I read a particular article, similar articles keep coming up. There's no responsibility, no social responsibility to put a link at the bottom to maybe a counter view, so that people reading it create, have a more holistic view of those kinds of things. And there's also the ethical issue of security and commoditizing individuals. If you look at Gojek, they've merged with Tokopedia, and you've come up with a new company, GoTo. If I were a customer, I'd be really worried about where this information is sitting, how secure is it, and am I going to be commoditized and hit with all kinds of advertisements that I don't want? On another note, I've listened to these speakers before this talking about upskilling employees. and that's great. From the governance perspective, very often companies will upskill employees if it benefits them. If it means that they attract talent, if it means that the employees have higher productivity. Nothing wrong, all great. What happens? Some of the ethical issues are what happens when you automate and you have to let go of people. Do you just say, under the law, I'm supposed to pay you a month or 2 months, wages, and off you go? You become unemployed and your society's problem. So these are some of the ethical issues that arise. There are all these tech entrepreneurs here at the conference. You should look at environmental issues. Be aware also of these social issues. Why should these employees become the problem of society when companies can actually take steps? If you can't find jobs for them, you can at least assist them a little bit. There's a company in Malaysia, I'm not at liberty to give a name. When they merged and they automated, they had to let go of certain employees. They paid them off, but what they did is they kept them on for 6 months, not on the payroll, but helped them do up CVs, gave them some free training, sent their CVs to headhunters, that kind of thing. So they couldn't be upskilled. You're automating, so you didn't need people. That's what they did. So these are some of the aspects from a governance and ethics point of view.
Thank you, Dr. Elsa. Certainly, ethical issues, upskilling, and workforce management is a key, let's say, characteristic of every company in this era. Now, putting that aside, I just want to bring directions to Dr. Chua from a learning perspective. Now, Dr. Chua, representing Selangor Human Resource Development Center, if I'm not wrong, as the leading training provider in this industry, could you share how the industry is actually taking on digital transformations? Actually, how the companies is also looking to upskilling the workforce, putting aside that ethicals remains a key.
No problem. Yeah, thank you very much, Jackie, for the question. So when we work with many industries, especially industry associations, there are a very, very strong motivation for them to move towards digital transformation. And of course, there are many concerns as well with regards to, a lot of, societal impact, economical impact when it comes to digital transformation that they take into consideration. So what we have done with the industries is that we have worked very closely with them into a more people-focused strategy, right? Whereby, when they look at the digital transformation initiatives, it starts with the people first, right? So we go on with the leadership buy-in, we try to, create that awareness and try to instill the importance and the culture of a people-focused strategy towards transformation. And hence, when upskilling comes in, when they start to digitally transform, right, we see that companies are beginning to be more motivated for them to kickstart their journey towards transformation. And even though they are impacted with this current situation, whereby most employees have to work from home or very, very minimal capacity at the factory, they are still putting in the culture where employees need to be upskilled, right? And therefore taking the opportunity at this period to actually get them to be ready, right, in terms of the skills and competencies before they go back to work. And this is what we see as a positive impact, right, when it comes to digital transformation. And we can see many companies are starting to see great benefit when they start to move into this area through a more people-focused strategy.
All right, perfect, thank you. On the same topic, Dr. Chua, we see that people strategy is a key, let's say, element to kickstart their upskilling transformations. Could you share with us how could a company actually start on this topic on people strategy? What should they look on? Is it improving their processes, adopting new technology, or likewise, hiring new people to make sure the organization remains competitive? How should we look into people strategy actually?
Sure, no problem. So usually when it comes to digital transformation, there are always a lot of questions around, the technology is very complex, the technology is very expensive, the technology is not achievable for my company, moving forward, because we are a small company, we have very minimal manpower, our team is very small. How do we get started? So a lot of times what we did was that we take them on a journey, right? We partner with them on a journey of digital transformation. We help them to demystify, the whole idea of Industry 4.0 what's in it for them, how can they get started on their journey, and take what we call as bite-sized strategies, right? It starts with the leadership buy-in and then start with understanding how technology can be implemented for them. So the journey of them, of how we take them through, is when we get the leadership buy-in, we help to upskill their staff. They don't need to hire new staff specifically, but if they can upskill the current staff in their factory to be able to do meaningful projects that motivate them to kickstart their journey, that's something that we really look forward in. So we start them off with their journey, start with a project, and it becomes a bite-sized strategies, and they can see that, once it creates motivation, when it creates a valuable impact for their company, they are more than happy to and keen to move forward. And this is what we see many companies, especially when they start this people-focused strategy. You start to see companies telling me that, look, my engineers now, my technicians now, they are now doing real unique jobs for my factory, right? They are now able to implement technology and not just focusing on sourcing technology, but they are able to develop something new. And this is how they see the strategy moving forward. And as a whole company-wide, you create that kind of culture and motivation for them to move forward together. Yeah.
All right, perfect, thank you. Let me direct this question on technology and of course upskilling to Dr. Law. Dr. Law, as the lab lead and co-founder of Innovation Labs.my, it strikes me to the fact that there's actually a Fraunhofer Institute right now that you're working closely with and actually establishing a lab for advanced manufacturing, and of course, Industry 4.0. So with that being said, could you share with us about an overview about what is the role of Innovation Labs.my in digital transformations, and how does this be linked to the industry? Particularly, industry would like to see this implemented in their factory environment as well.
Yeah. Thank you, Jackie. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. My name is Cheng Yi Lau. I'm from the Innovation Labs.my, and as Jackie pointed out just now, this is a joint lab set up together with our German partner. So the Fraunhofer IEM, and IEM stands for the Institute for Mechatronic Systems Design. Our goal is actually to bring the Fraunhofer model to Malaysia through fast knowledge transfer and technology transfer. So what we do in the context of digitalization and digital transformation, first of all, we are working on building up awareness. This year, we are organizing 20 free of charge webinars. So on different topics ranging from, let's say, manufacturing analytics to, let's say, agile methods. And we invited indeed lots of speakers from Germany. So from the Fraunhofer IEM, German professors, and also industrial solution providers such as Arkstone from Singapore. So, and then this is try to spread the knowledge across so that everyone understand why we need to go for digitalizations and digital transformation. And secondly, we actually bring the use cases, the demonstrators from Germany to Malaysia with the financial support from the German Ministry of Education and Research. So these are the demonstrators developed by Fraunhofer IEM, and we send them from Germany to Malaysia and we put it in the lab. So, and these demonstrators can show companies real-world use cases and applications of Industry 4.0 technologies, which are already put into good use. And as part of a public university, of course, we see it is our responsibility to try to nurture the next generation of digital talent, and we would like to do this in a practical oriented way. So with, for example, in collaboration with Arkstone Singapore, we are assigning our students into local companies to try to digitalize their manual operations using a free version of a lightweight MES software provided by Arkstone Singapore. And apart from that, we also providing services together with the Fraunhofer IEM from Germany. We try to help companies to identify potentials of digitalizations for their company. And we try to help them in terms of ideation, for example, by organizing what we call a corporate mechathons. So by doing so, they can get fresh ideas outside from their company. We can also, as a technical university, we can also help them in terms of prototyping of their new product or services, and also to innovate their new business models. Last but not least, we also help to build up capabilities of company. So through customized training courses, for example, on topics such as digital analytics, data analytics and corporate innovation management. So indeed, we are here to accompany companies on their journey towards digital transformation, and feel free to contact us.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Loh. Just a burning question on top of my head right now. We do see that there's certainly different skill sets that's required in Malaysia as compared to developed countries such as Germany. How do you see this gap to be filled actually? How do you see that companies can really not just upskilling the workforces, but also create the motivations that companies and workforces are there in the journey?
So that's for me, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So actually we have weekly meetings with Fraunhofer IEM, and at the same time we also have contact with different German universities. So we see that it is important to not only focus on theory. As much as possible, we should expose our students to the real industrial problems. And when we see there's a need and there's a gap, we try to train them and give them the right training. We send our students and our lecturers also into Fraunhofer IEM, let's say for data science training courses. And when they become good at it, actually, so then we see that actually in Germany, they have shortage of data scientists. And when they have shortage, they actually engage our students to get paid as a student assistant to help in their industrial projects. So and also we help our students to get some scholarships, and so that they can go to Germany, and because of this pandemic, everything is digital, and our students also, they can take part in an exchange semester digitally. So yeah, I hope I understand your questions right.
Yeah, I think this echo the earlier speaker about the students right now, they must be trained and they must be relevant to the industry, right? Not just the current industry, but the upcoming industry where companies are getting more digitalized. And of course, to echo what Siemens has mentioned, having these remote operations and of course, remote management. Now, maybe just questions to Johnson. In Siemens world, what would be the best recommendations, or what would be your recommendations for companies, especially SME, that actually wanted to start on digital transformations?
Okay, thanks, Jackie. Thanks for your question. Yeah. Perhaps this will actually very much start within ourselves itself. In Siemens, we actually value upskilling and reskilling very much. So in fact, we ourselves in Siemens, we actually put all of our employees over there to at least commit to 8 hours of digital learning, coupled with a lot of internal webinars and technology where experts around the world will be sharing information, sharing know-how and expertise. And in so doing, when all of these employees are well equipped with the new innovations and expertise available, they will be able to create a domino effect when they go out and further train our fellow customers, and hence uplifting the entire expertise level of the industry nationwide. So we would definitely recommend for those SME out there who wants to kickstart their digital transformation journey. Perhaps the first step is to do a digitalization assessment in their facilities. They can definitely come over to us. We can actually do a on-site consultancy onto their facilities to at least guide them where are the digitalization gaps, and then plan out what are the digitalization processes that should actually come in play. On the other aspect, they can also come over to us where we actually have lots of initiatives within Siemens. For example, we have Siemens Industry Training, it's also known as C-Train. We have Siemens Corporate Education, where we actually give out a very good pricing support and also article support to key universities and institutions of higher learning to assist them towards the way of technologies and innovation is to be. And all these are all handled under the SIRTC, the Siemens Innovation and Resource Training Center, on the following topics like IoT, digital twin, cloud computing, predictive maintenance, remote services, and much more. Yeah? So for those of you who are interested to learn a bit more or to understand more about what Siemens can offer in regards to training or regards to consultancy, feel free to come over to us. We have lots of information to share.
And of course, there's discount behind. So that's really good to know. Right.
Yeah,
On the same thought of this, let's say Siemens Training Center, I just want to understand from Dr. Chua, how is actually SHRDC preparing the next generation workforce for the smart manufacturing sector? Is there a set of frameworks that we have prepared that companies can take it on and use it and deploy to the companies as well? How is this being deployed or managed within Malaysia actually?
Sure, no problem, Jackie. Thank you very much for your question. So the Malaysian Smart Factory 4.0 at SHRDC, what we do is that we actually take in industry problem statements and challenges, and we actually translate those industry problems and challenges into high impact talent development programs where industry can actually take on, as a bite-sized modular phase-by-phase program where they can actually take from level 1 all the way to level 5. Now we actually have a level 6 in terms of transforming their current manufacturing operations towards a more, industry 4.0 ready operations, all the way from data collection, all the way to analytics and AI currently. So how do we encourage the workforce to actually be involved in training and upskilling during this period? Is that we actually set up a remote training facility, right, whereby anyone from around the nation or even globally can access our remote training facility. We have set up the lab. They can interact with the hardware and software directly, wherever you are. So this doesn't limit the upskilling process for companies that intend to go into digital transformation. And we definitely invite more and more industries to work with us. What's next is actually, what we encourage industries to do is to sit down with us to discuss, okay, what are your next steps, right? Maybe you want to start a project, right? With the competencies that you gain from our training program, can you actually start a project? So the answer is usually yes, right? And this framework of training to implementation that we sort of uniquely position will help many companies to kickstart their journey. And we hope that this will really help to support, to accelerate the digital transformation in many companies in Malaysia.
All right, perfect. Thank you. I think on the same line of these trainings and digital transformations, Dr. Elsa, how would you advise companies in the context of ethical issues when companies are in this journey right now?
I think when you listen to what Dr. Chua has talked about, what SHRDC is talking about, it gives me the feeling that when employers come to them, they make the journey together with the employees to upskill them. I think that's very ethical, actually, and a lot of companies should adopt this attitude. They're giving you training, and you see, often you hear employers say that employees are our greatest asset. You don't abandon your asset halfway. You take your asset along with you as you grow. So if employers were to adopt that when they upskill, that everybody has a place. And if we really can't find a place for you, we are automating, so we don't need human beings, then the ethical thing to do is not to throw them out there to be unemployed, but to find different ways of upskilling them, maybe in a different area, if you can. Don't say that because you have no use to me, sorry, you're out there with just a month's pay. Do something about it. I've given you the example of the company that did upskill the employees or help them as much as they can. If that company can do it, I think all Malaysians need to think about that. The topic of this one is building us up as a nation. You really can't build yourself up as a nation if you're going to leave half the people behind.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Dr. Elsa. In interest of time, let me just summarize the discussion here. So we hear that from Johnson that Siemens is actually helping companies throughout the transformation journey from upskilling workforces to implementation of advisory projects. They also offer a series of projects that really allow you to be more, let's say, digitalized and integrated. On the same view, Dr. Elsa mentioned the fact that it's important to make sure that ethical issues and governance are in place as you embark onto digital transformation. Workforces are asset to companies and should never be taken for granted. On the same line from Dr. Chua, companies such as SME or micro SME should really start using the frameworks that has been deployed by SHRDC in really upskilling your companies, and of course, ultimately embarking on specific technical projects. And finally, from Dr. Low, Innovation Labs.my are offering a series of, let's say, German industrial 4.0 concepts to Malaysia companies, at the same time allow you to experience a different, let's say, context of digital transformations and underlying benefits. Here is quite a lot of initiatives ongoing in Malaysia right now. This is really interesting. I really recommend companies to really start tapping onto these opportunities as we speak.